Okay, friends, as Lama Michael says, the ball is in your court. So lob it over here. All questions are smart questions. I used to tell people that at college when I taught, because they say, I think this is a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. That's impossible. If it's a question, it's a question. So please share.
Zopa and Bill and Dora, I've been reading just recently about the 8 worldly concerns.
Oh, yeah.
And how, I guess, how they can be an obstacle to practicing Dharma. And I find like the one about attachment to pleasurable or pleasant experiences, it just like knocked me on the head. Like, oh my gosh, that is so why I don't practice as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
And in the book they were talking about, the antidote to that is, one antidote would be to contemplate death and impermanence. But somehow that just isn't working for, I don't know, it's like I want something more radical. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that. I'm sure everyone can relate to this question.
Yeah, that's why I don't practice either. So let's just list them for people. The 8 worldly concerns are what we spend, most of us, I can't judge you, thank goodness, what I spend about 99.9% of my time on. And the difficulty with them is that, they're the cause of samsara. So what they are, they come in 4 pairs. So there's the one Marcy's referring to, my pain, my pleasure. It's always nice to put my in front of them. That kind of helps. My pain, my pleasure, my gain, my loss, my praise, my blame. No, your blame. Praise and blame, and good and bad reputation. And it's really quite good to start watching. I'm glad to hear you kind of ID'd one, like, oh, there's my number 1 pair. Because it's very helpful as we go through life to go, oh, I'm stuck on reputation here in this moment. Like I'm circling and freaking out, How am I going to look up here today? I changed my scarf 3 times this morning. But I did notice. Said, Zopa, it doesn't make any difference. Then the last time I changed it because I was cold, so that one was my pleasure. I didn't want to be uncomfortable. So it's just what we spend our time on. And the difficulty is, well, we're just humans, so, don't judge yourself. This is what we do. But to end suffering, we want to get beyond that. We want to see those are, those are a small game to play, right? And they keep us from the big game of really ending suffering of ourselves and others. The way they increase suffering is, you named one. I don't want to sit because I feel uncomfortable. Let's take that. Or my room's too cold, my room's too hot. There's too much noise outside. So I just can't, right? Impossible. So that's circling around my pain, my pleasure, pleasurable feelings in the body in particular. And so we're stuck then. At some point, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it can happen that the pleasures of sitting, the pleasures of the results of sitting can become larger. Do you know what I'm saying? So it can be like, I want to sit because I get this other pleasure. So you can even use these against being stuck in the I, me, mine. The I, me, mine. The I, me, mine, the teeny tiny world of I, me, mine. It's very, very teeny. It's very, very tight, and it can get tighter and tighter and tighter. And often when it does that, then we explode at someone about something or at ourselves, right? I'm not describing something unusual here. You kind of, everybody experienced this? Yeah, okay, pretty normal. So you asked more specifically about, I don't know, could we call it antidotes or ways to work with pain and pleasure? So I described one. If you simply do the sitting, do it as well as you can with some habit, an experience can come that this is pleasurable. More pleasurable than sitting in a noisy restaurant with a really good meal in front of you, trying to talk to the people across, but they can't hear, you can't hear, so you're all yelling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Is that pleasure? One thing Venerable Chitran taught us about this is whenever you are sure you're experiencing pleasure, you're just sure of it, stop and investigate it. Like, what's pleasurable about this? Often we have the story of pleasure. This is supposed to be pleasurable. This vacation, I use that one. This vacation is supposed to be pleasurable, so by God, it's going to be pleasurable. And what happens is it rains, or the restaurant you wanted to go to is closed, or you know, the hot springs smelled sulfurous, you know, whatever it is. You know, you got in an argument all the way about which direction to take. So it's the way it ties in with calm abiding for me is just, if we're in the moment, drop into the moment, we start, what's the pleasure in this piece of chocolate in my mouth? Really, what's the pleasure in it? Yeah, something there for a moment, but every moment it changes. And then it starts disappearing, and then the pleasure's gone, and then we're dissatisfied, and we got to get another piece of chocolate, right? Is that helping at all? Yeah? Let's see. You know, in an ultimate sense, it's all about the essencelessness of everything. Pleasure, pain, reputation. Oh, I'll tell my reputation story, and then I want to hear from Bill or Dora. The reputation, you know, I got in a lot of trouble at a time when I was being a big shot with a big shot name. I'm not putting it down. I mean, executive director of Clackamas County Divorce Mediation Service. And, you know, it was a pinnacle for me of lawyering, mediating, lots of stuff, plus a big salary. That was nice. Anyway, it basically became a really great teaching for me. Thank goodness I had Buddhism at the time, because at one point I had a few people who really who were working under me and did not like my style of leading. And looking back, I can't blame them. But they organized and really attacked my reputation and tried to get me out of the agency and stuff. It was a great, great teaching. Thank goodness for Venerable Chitran guiding me through, so I didn't add to the suffering too much, but really went through it as, okay, karmic unfolding, you've done this to people, just, you know, keep going, be kind. But I went there to her just distraught about, gee, I'm in this public position and people are publicly attacking me and I'm just freaked out. And she said, what are you freaked out about the most? And I said, my reputation. It's the only thing you have, right? We learned that. You've heard that saying, right? The only thing you really have is your reputation. And she said, oh, well, what's a reputation? And that stopped me. And she said, it's a group of opinions of people that are constantly shifting. And you have no control over that. Day 1, they'll like you. Day 2, they won't. Day 3, they won't care. The next hour, they'll all hate you. Then, it's not, that's all it is. And she was just pointing at the lack of essence, which was a great meditation for a lot of days, because I'd get stuck and try and fix it, and then I could let go, and I could start seeing, where do I experience less suffering? When I try to shore up my reputation, which I can't do a thing about because it's your opinions, or just let go and practice my practice. So there you go. And they're all like that, whether it's gain, loss, blame, pleasure, praise, blame. Praise, blame's really a big one for a lot of us. So just start liking blame. Just start liking discomfort, or at least, I'm teasing, but just investigating it. What's uncomfortable about this moment of heat or cold or, what is it, really? Okay? Yeah, thanks for the question. What to add? What to subtract?
I think the particular one that you zeroed in on is it's endemic to our circumstances right now. It's one of the most prominent challenges because there are so many possibilities for doing something pleasant and for doing something slightly more pleasant than that. And even more pleasant than that, it's an echo chamber of enticements that surround us. And we live in a circumstance where, relatively speaking, we have resources and possibilities available to us that would have been probably 200 years ago considered godlike, literally magical. So, and then we're going, nah, I want something a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's really, it's an absolutely hilarious circumstance from one perspective. And so I think it's worth taking the challenge of that very seriously, that it's almost like Mara really has upped his game. Mara has upped his game. It's like, well, I didn't quite fool all of the people all the time, so now I'm going to go after these people, and I'm going to offer all kinds of things that will be very seductive in kind of the global sense of the word. So I think just first, it's just really important just kind of put that on the table for ourselves. Go, oh, that's the situation I'm in. And then I think it's worth also, another thing that came to mind was thinking about the classical division of practitioners into 3 levels of capacity. And this gives some indication of how we might respond. There are the highest level practitioner actually can practice seamlessly in the midst of daily life. you could say in this case, can practice seamlessly in the midst of all the seductive enticements. That's a little hard. Okay, maybe I'm not the supreme practitioner. So, okay, then we'll go to the middling practitioner who can practice as long as there is a good social container that reinforces practice, like a monastery, something like that. And so you have enough external reinforcement. The most feeble practitioner is the one who actually needs to do retreat. And I'm on a little bit of a roll on this, and because I think it really is, it's very hard for us to set aside all these enticements. It's almost like, yeah, I'll do some practice, but I'm kind of going to hold this one kind of in the back of my mind is really, will I go do this or will I go do that? Which one's going to be most fun? Is it going to be this or going to be that? And so I'm kind of holding, and it's not like one, it's kind of like, I've got an armload of stuff that I'm holding like that. And going on retreat for several days is actually an opportunity to at least absent yourself from the general conditions. So I think it's very important for us to have at least an appreciation for how much determination it takes to actually set ourselves aside, step outside of these things where our habitual pattern is just to grab another one, and look for one that's slightly better. So I think it's worth keeping that in mind. And in the same way with our daily practice, we have to have a kind of a similar level of humility about what it takes to actually maintain that. But I think doing retreat is actually a very important piece of addressing this. But a lot of it is just looking at the situation and seeing it for what it is. Highly seductive. Mm-hmm. Seductive in ways that people could not imagine even 100 years ago.
I just wanted to amplify the theme of reflection on this phenomena, and in particular, looking afterwards and spending some time saying, what am I left with? So I had this great meal, or I had this beautiful hike, or whatever it was that brought pleasure. So now what do I have from that? And I think that helps put things in perspective. And I also, getting at this point in my life, getting older, I think I can look at something and say, well, I've done that kind of thing 100 times, and I may never have a chance to do it again. So that's interesting to reflect then and say, what does that mean? What do I have? What do I have from having done that 100 times? And there may, and I'm not saying that we would see there's no value. But we might see that what we thought was value wasn't the main thing, and we might see something that was a value that maybe leads us closer to what we want to expand on. And we might see other things that came along with it that were things we don't even want to repeat. I mean, there's so many of these experiences have a lot of cost to them also, like, the 12 hours in the car to get to the, whatever, or all the planning that it takes, or the, working with the other people who are doing this experience with you and worrying about whether they're having as good a time or not, and what, and all that stuff. Sometimes we sort of block that out, and we don't notice what all the cost was to get that experience or of pleasure that we got. And anyway, I just think there's a lot to learn and see, and by reflecting honestly on these things, I think it helps us to sort of let go of some of the unreality of it and to move into some of the true value.
Yeah, thank you. I want to build on that just a bit. These 8 worldly concerns are really worth spending time on. So another way to describe what Dora's talking about is we tend to, due to the habits in our mind, which is karma, karmic tendencies, habits in the mind, to exaggerate the pleasurable qualities of certain things. We get the label and we exaggerate the qualities mistakenly in the face of what's actually occurring. So it's like when we fall in love, we exaggerate the qualities of that being. We don't see them clearly at all. And then when the reality of the complicated being shows up, then we exaggerate the negativity, you see. And now we're in trouble because we didn't see clearly from the beginning. This is a complicated being like I am. And the practice of love is actually generosity, patience, ethics. It's not my romantic woo-woo feeling, you know. Now, most of us kind of know that, but do we know it? We know it unless we're still trying to do it. So the other thing I wanted to say is the difficulty with the 8 worldly concerns is we will find ourselves not only in more confusion and suffering because of these exaggerate the positive, exaggerate the difficulties rather than seeing clearly, but then we're in danger of giving up our ethics to get the thing. That's the real crux of it. To get something, do I lie? Do I cheat? Do I just cheat a little? You know, do I compromise how I talk about others? You know, like for my own gain? Do I say something that undermines someone else? You know, because I want you to think really good about me, and one way to do that is make someone else look small. This is the bottom line, and it's the piece that leads back to contemplate death. Because at death, you're not taking any of those 8 with you. Bupkis. They're not coming with you. What's coming along with the consciousness is all the things we did to get or run away from those. Because those imprints went into the consciousness. That's what's going forward. All the gain, all the loss, not going to happen. Not 1 ounce of pleasure's coming, not 1 ounce of the pain, except the mental suffering. That's going to go forward. So that's why there's the contemplate death, contemplate impermanence. Do we want to end our lives having pursued those 8 and then be there on your deathbed going, whoops, I danced the wrong dance, you know, wish I'd done something else. Really, regrets at the time of death are all about the 8 worldly concerns. So good you raised that. Study about these for sure, folks. And more than study, watch in your life how they're unfolding, you know. As we used to say in our Irish family, who would you knock down to get a drink? Even my dad, who was unfortunately addicted, used to laugh at that. But, you know, in laughing, we see it's the extreme of, you know, watch out, you know, watch out for what you're going for. because you may harm a lot of people in the process. There's a couple of questions. Who's got the mic? Oh, Peter does. Thank you.
So I have a question related to the question, Marcy. My question is, how do you know if you're pursuing something pleasurable due to the 8-worldly concerns, or if you're pursuing something for the benefit of others? So, for example, I'm really burnt out at work, and I'm taking 2 days off. And so taking the 2 days off, I want to do something nice to recharge my batteries so I can go to work, feel better, not feel so burnt out, so that way I can keep helping people at work. So I guess I'm curious, like, how does one know if it's the self-serving? How does one know if it's not? Is there, like, I think the thing that kind of made me think about that is last night I was up late thinking about, I want to go to the beach one day, and which beach am I going to go to? I should look up and see which beach I want to go to.
Yeah. And maybe that's not good enough. How about the other one?
And oh crap, now it's 12:30 and I have to get up for meditation at 7:30, and oh dang it, now I'm going to be tired for meditation. And
good watching. It's all that.
So like it's funny because there's a part of it that is like I need to go spend some time in nature to feel rejuvenated, but then there's also the part that is, but what about this? It would be better if you did this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm curious as to, how do you know when you're...
Well, I don't know. We don't know. We run the experiment. That's really the bumper sticker I come back to. Run the experiment. Of the two witnesses, as my training says, that is others and self, rely on you. You're the doctor for your mind. And it sounds to me like you've gone quite a ways in watching this, so give yourself credit. Then it's kind of like Dora said, see what happens after you do. But that whole mind that's going, but what if I'm not doing the most right thing? Just see it. What's it made up of? What is that? It comes and goes, right? It's not there 100%. Let it go by, If I have a habit like that, I literally these days kind of try and personify it, like over here. Hello, So you're doing that, and I'm not really interested, literally. And just let it kind of spin down. Then it'll come back, then spin down. Notice the body sensations. That's helpful. What is that whole conversation? Up we go. Just seeing it. But there's no... we can't know ahead of time. There's no formula for that. That's the future. We gotta be here. What I think you're doing that's quite, I find helpful, is know what is here right now, including that mind that's going, no, but maybe come in the body a little more. And just calm it. People in the helping professions have really quite a challenge, because and I can speak from decades of it, we can get an ego around being the helper, so whenever we stop, we're very uncomfortable. Even though we haven't stopped, that's the tricky thing to see. You going and taking time off is helping others. It's not a stopping of helping others. It's seamless.
And that's how I see it.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. And there's a but?
There was not a time. There was a time where I did not see that.
Okay, great. And you see that now. So this is the mind healing. Seeing that, seeing I'm doing that, seeing that. But just let go of knowing. I mean, you'll know. I won't know for you. I'll know for me, hopefully. That's the cool thing about working with the mind. We can know it, but someone else can't know it. Just how it goes. Unless they become a Buddha, a high-level bodhisattva. That's why our teachers can help us, because sometimes they see things that, they can go, meep, and it's like, wow, thank you. Okay? Yeah.
I think it's helpful to maintain, sort of keep an eye on the principle of simplicity in these things, because we can, the impulse to really sort out the super details of is this helpful or not, it's like that's a hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
It's the same, and in a certain way, it's the same hall of mirrors as whether this beach or that beach is going to be the better beach to go to. There is a way, it's like, you don't actually know how it's going to turn out. And if you can be present with what's unfolding as you go through these things and check it out, then it may be able to, might be possible to relate to whatever happens at beach A or beach B in a more direct and open way, as opposed to thinking, oh, I should have gone to the other beach. Or am I really being helpful or not? I don't know. Yeah. So that kind of getting tied up in knots takes us away from the ability to actually observe and kind of see and be with our experience, and to actually be able to be good scientists about running the experiment. That requires a kind of a very simple, relaxed mind.
One thing, thank you, Bill. One thing that relaxes my mind in those moments is coming to this moment, and something Lama Tara said to us more than once in our one-year retreat is just say, this is enough. You're on beach A, and you start thinking about beach B and C and D. Just get back to beach A, look around and say, this is enough. And you'll always find it is. It's very trippy. Always it is. Yeah.
Just go to the beach.
Yeah. Go to the beach and enjoy that beach. Or get mad at that beach, but then be with that. Be with whatever's on that beach. Yeah. Great. Yeah, and for you, go to the beach.
I have a sort of comment / question on the same theme. My sense is, from what I read, is that
I might be losing a battery.
Battery's going.
There we go.
There we go.
My sense from what I've read over the years is until the moment we become a Buddha, our motivations will always be a mixture of clarity and confusion.
Right. That's what I heard.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have experience so far.
And so I get into this tangle of what's the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's weirdly comforting to me to think there is no guarantee of doing the right thing in every moment until the moment of enlightenment. So the only thing that I can do right now is the very best that I can do.
Yep.
You know, to do all the things that Bill was saying, like just try to be present with what's unfolding, be as clear as possible about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But I feel like I'm constantly having to let go of the idea that I'm going to get it all right. Because it just doesn't come till the very end of the path. And as long as I'm on the path, that's going to be the struggle. So that's the way I relate to it. And I'm wondering if that seems on track, and if there's anything more you would offer there.
Well, I think it sounds great, and I feel more relaxed with you sharing that. And I think a piece of it is compassion for self, which is so important, because I don't know why we've got this big thing on others. Most of our attention seems turned out fixing others, helping others, criticizing others, trying to control others. And the whole thing's come back right here, which your comments do. For some reason, mind training slogans are coming this morning, but one of my favorites that kind of connects into what you said is, don't put the load of an ox on a donkey. And sometimes I shorthand it and just say to myself, Zopa, you're a little donkey. Be kind to your donkey. You're really loading your donkey up here, trying to do what you can't do, carry what you can't carry, figure it all out, know things ahead of time. Just put some of that stuff down. What can the donkey carry? Right now, compassion for self. Just saying, I can't do this. Wish I could, but no, I can't. Or I did my best and they're still upset. That part's not mine. Their feelings aren't mine. I did my best with good motivation. Now I can look at and listen and see what might I do different in the future, but I'm still a little donkey headed towards enlightenment. Mary. Oh. You'll see a green light.
I just wanted to offer a comment about pleasure. I think the way the question was originally framed in terms of what is the antidote suggests that the experience of pleasure is problematic, and I don't believe that at all. It's the craving for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
There are so many experiences that are pleasurable in and of themselves. It could be just chopping vegetables for a stir fry.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. You got it. Pleasure's great, but the minute we grab at it, we suffer, and the pleasure's gone. And just remembering everything's just going by. The moment of being with your dear one going by. Yeah, but thank you for that precision. Over there, Mary.
And just kind of adding on a little bit to that, because 4 or 5 years ago, I had a big burnout experience related to work. And it was actually a really good thing, because it kind of helped me review everything, even though I'd been practicing for a while and stuff. It was just, I'd let myself get overwhelmed. And I actually went to a behavioral psychologist for a bit, which was really helpful. And one of the things that she had me do, and we actually went over a list, was you got to do something fun every day. Do something fun every day. And then she was like, well, what do you do for fun? I was like,
Yeah.
So, she had this really funny list. Some of the stuff was just, some of this you may not agree with, but it just sort of gives you an idea how the vastness of what you might think is fun, like chopping vegetables or, so So I did it every day. Like I would maybe go to the museum by myself, or just go to the park by myself, or maybe do something with my husband. But it was I got permission to do something fun every day, which is silly that you have to have permission, but it was good, and it was sort of affirmation. It's like, okay, just like what you said, it's not the fun thing is not what's wrong. It's how sometimes we relate to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we ruin it. I watch myself ruin it. Back to, I'm on a wonderful beach thinking about the other beach. I've ruined my fun. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with pleasure. It's great. Nothing wrong with pain either. But one we grab, the other one we shove away. That's where we suffer. Those things are just rising and falling all the time. Just like that's why Shine is so perfect. You see it in your mind. You have a pleasurable thought, you start following it and get lost, try and maintain it. Then you have a not pleasurable thought and start trying to tamp it down, suppress it. And you can see it in your session, right? Hey, where did I get lost here? Oh yeah, back to the breath. Just let it be. Just let it be. Let the pleasure be. Don't even label it.
Going back to what Heather spoke about, I spent years and years and years beating myself up when I had to make a decision. And finally I just kind of said enough. And now I just kind of take the information I have and I look at my motivation and I do it. And I make a lot of mistakes, but I don't have a whole lot of regret. And it feels good, and, I try to improve on it, but I really try not to live in the past when it comes to those decisions and the what-ifs. I really try not to do the what-ifs, and it's taken me 70 years to get there, but it feels good.
I'm right with you. 71 in a few months. Motivation. That's such a key word. Motivation. We can make lots of mistakes, and we will. But if our motivation is really, I intended to benefit that one. I intended to benefit. And oops, they needed a strawberry ice cream, and I gave them a ham sandwich. Sorry. but I intended to, And that's so important. One of the most important things my teacher ever taught me was every morning when you get up, set that motivation, even you're not out of bed yet. I intend to be of benefit to everyone with my body, speech, mind. That's my intention. I know it won't happen. That's the other thing she said. Be sure it won't happen all day long. But just reset it. That's what I want to do. Thank you.
One thing that I hope people will do, we've mentioned burnout a couple of times, and I do hope that people spend a little time figuring out how it is that we lay the groundwork for that. And that's something that requires individual reflection, but part of it is ramping up some kind of expectation beyond what's possible. There's a piece there. So I think it's good to keep that part in mind and not just think about, well, what do I do after this natural phenomena of burnout, which just always happened, and kind of look ahead a little bit.
Yeah, don't load your donkey up ever, and then you don't have to stop and unload. Be kind all the time.
Another way you could say that, don't put the load of a Buddha on a sentient being.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, we're just humans while we're doing this. Yeah.
So excuse my grasping and wanting to ask this question. But before the bell, hopefully the answers are short. One was, in one of your answers, Zopa, you were talking about like ethical behavior, which, and maybe even alluded to the 6 paramitas. And I wasn't sure if that was an effort to try to, hint to Bill that, really we should be getting the paramita of the month. That's one thing. The other one was early on when your introduction about Lama Michael and the idea of practicing for others, you had these food analogies of like the full meal or the side meal. And my question is, what is a tantric feast? Which is maybe food related.
Oh boy. That's not a short question. But I'll let Bill answer about the paramita of the month. The paramitas being generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, 6 of them. And those are the path of bodhisattvas. I think it has kind of morphed. But the tantric feast is a tantric practice, so Vajrayana tantric practice. And it's a particular practice of, in shorthand, I'll say, honoring the lineage of teachers, giving them gifts and, which are symbolized by putting food and drinks and lots of things out on the altar. It's very particular. So once you become a tantric Vajrayana practitioner, you can learn that. It's also a gateway to understanding the illusion of the entire thing, of the giver, the gift, the receiver, all of it. Okay? What happened to our paramitas, Bill? Hopefully we still have.
I find this is a good example of I actually followed my own advice.
What'd you do?
Well, back to this question of burnout.
Yes.
There was this little project which, when Tim Campbell brought it up to me, seemed so very simple, and in a certain way it is very simple. But then I realized what would be required not only of me but of other people, and then I realized that it was not a good time to start something that was so simple, because it wasn't. It would have been a good time to start something simple. And so that's actually what I did, was by not starting the Paramita of the Month club here. So that's what happened with it. If things get simple enough, it'll happen. But it requires, it's actually a good example. It's a good example to look. And people should know what goes on behind the curtain. They say, we'll have the Paramita of the Month Club. And then somebody actually has to think about what aspects of that should be brought forward, and then even when you go do that and say, okay, we talk, okay, that's another few hours because we have too much fun talking.
And Zopa said no. Yeah. To all of that planning.
Yes, she pointed out what I was about to do to myself and others. But it requires actually people to figure out how to do the kind of the digital communications, how to set things up, how to provide forum for feedback, how to interconnect that to the other things that we're doing in our programming. So there's actually quite a bit that has to happen. And along the way, this is a good time to put a plug in. I'm looking up and say, there's somebody who's volunteering to do something right there. It's kind of simple, but it's important. And I look around and I see all kinds of other people who have either now or in the past put time in to make simple things simple. So when we get around to it, it will require some people to do some simple things.
In the meantime, just practice them. Every day, every moment, all 6 of them. And you can do the Paramita of the moment. Okay. All right. Thank you for your comments and questions.
by this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you so much. And it's cleaning time, so Willa and the board will be there. Please help out as you can.